Advocates of brutality. Quite often throughout history, heinous oppression has been supported by the people, in part because the people were unable to recognize evil as evil when it was committed in the name of law and authority. If the people truly believe that government has the right to rule, almost everyone now believes all sorts of authoritarian solutions will be supported or at least passively accepted by most people. For example, many Germans in the 1940s who themselves would never commit or condone private intimidation or assault, much less murder, nonetheless eagerly supported the idea of a legislative, government-approved, and government-administrated solution to the so-called Jewish problem, as Hitler called it. It was officially sanctioned and done via law, so the people imagined themselves to be blameless for whatever happened, even if they vehemently advocated it. Americans today, suffering from selective denial, are quick to righteously condone what other violent oppressive regimes have done, but slow to recognize that, as a result of their own belief in authority, they too condone widespread draconian brutality in the name of law. Even when oppression goes beyond mere threats and intimidation and leads to constant, widespread, open violence and brutality, most people, as a result of their belief in authority, are still unable to recognize it as evil. An obvious example is war. The nationalism that is so strong in authoritarians blinds them to the absolute evil which they condone and support in the name of national defense. In many cases, this blindness is intentional. Politicians and conservative voters alike complain when the blunt realities of war are shown to the American people. They want to wave their flag and cheer for their team, enthusiastically participating in the pack mentality, but they do not want to have to actually see the real world results of what it is they support. They can be persuaded to proudly support the troops and believe in a supposedly righteous war in the abstract, as long as they are sheltered from having to see the carnage, blood, guts, and body parts which their patriotism is causing. Through love of one's country, it is still portrayed as a great virtue. The truth is that the killers on both sides of every war, including those who fought for the most brutal, ruthless regimes in history, have been motivated by the feeling of righteousness that nationalistic pack mentality gives them. War could not happen at all without soldiers putting their devotion and loyalty to their own gang, tribe, or country above doing what is right. Patriotism and the belief in authority are the two key ingredients to war. The easiest way to dupe basically good people into committing evil is by portraying acts of aggression and conquest as fighting for one's country. While rulers have long been practicing mind control over their subjects, in many cases, the mind control of those who believe in authority is self-inflicted. They want to believe in their country, and in some righteous abstract principle, some ideal, some noble cause, example, spreading democracy, without having to think what is happening in simple, literal terms. It is easier to support mass murder when it is called war, and more so when it is called national defense. When it is cloaked in authoritarian, pact mentality terminology, it allows its proponents and those actually making it happen to imagine themselves to be supporting something brave and righteous. While individual soldiers may truly believe they are fighting for a noble cause, it is impossible to be a good guy and be at war with an entire country, as discussed previously. The way governments wage war is never justified and never moral, as it always involves widespread violence against innocents. But that is a fact that nationalists, left and right, refuse to see. Another example of modern draconian brutality, legally committed in the free world, comes from the campaign of violence known as the war on drugs. In the name of trying to stamp out a habit, not violence or theft or fraud, but a mere habit, millions of non-violent, peaceful, productive human beings have been assaulted, terrorized, and caged. Enforcement of narcotics laws occurs in a particularly brutal, vicious way, with paramilitary invasions of private homes being commonplace and many year imprisonments for victimless crimes being abundant. And the advocates of the war on drugs are well aware not only of the overtly violent enforcement actions, but also of the fact that the only measurable effects have been higher prices for certain mind-altering substances, more crime committed to pay for such substances, violent conflict between rival sellers of the substances, and more funds, weapons, power, and legislative permission for those who wear the label of authority to harass and assault innocents. Even if it actually worked and eliminated or significantly reduced the use of certain drugs, such brutality would be absolutely unjustified and immoral. But even though it has utterly failed to get an inch closer to the stated goal many conservatives enthusiastically cheer for, more harassment, terrorism, and violence. To add hypocrisy to fascism, most of those conservatives drink alcohol and act morally identical to the behaviors they want authority to violently stamp out. And while millions of lives continue to be destroyed by that brutal draconian crusade, many statists eagerly blame the victims by declaring that they broke the law and therefore deserve whatever's done to them. So the supposedly moral and responsible conservative, even if a person has harmed no one and committed neither force nor fraud, he has simply disobeyed If he has simply disobeyed the arbitrary decrees of his master, he deserves to be assaulted, caged, or killed. And, of course, such conservatives view it as unforgivable if the target of such fascist thuggery decides to fight back. From the twisted delusional viewpoint of the devout nationalist authoritarian is the noble and virtuous state mercenaries to violently assault and kidnap and cage a productive, peace-loving pot smoker, but heinously evil for that pot smoker to use violence to defend himself against such aggression. Such is the insanity caused by the superstition of authority.